Canada could see more than 100,000 COVID-19 cases and up to 9,400 deaths by, get this, the second week of June 14th. That's according to the latest federal modeling projections released today by the federal government. And as a warning to the public, the Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, there she is right there, says that Canada is at risk of seeing, her word, a potentially explosive second wave if reopen plans are mishandled. Tam warns that without a vaccine or effective treatment, loosening lockdown measures will, quote, likely cause the epidemic to rebound. What are provinces doing? The federal government, the governments are largely handling the reopening themselves. They got to avoid that. What are they doing to do so? The Premier of a province that reopens largely tomorrow, Stephen McNeil, joins us now, the Premier of Nova Scotia. Sir, good to see you, and I hope you and the family are well. You're in Halifax. Are you concerned by Dr. Tam's comments, and do you have to calibrate those through your reopening plan tomorrow?
I think all governments across the country recognize in the reopening we need to continue to be diligent around public health protocols, 6 feet separation, making sure we do the hand washing. It'll be a different environment for business, but we are now at a point where we need to, as well as we focus on our individual health, we need to focus on the economic health of our respective provinces and country.
What about the borders? There's real concern about people who are trying to get to places and provinces, and they're just literally getting turned back. Somebody's, there's a story of a man who bought property in a province. He drove from British Columbia out to the Maritimes, couldn't even get through, told to turn back. Is that really going to happen?
So I can tell you at our borders, we have information pickets where we provide information to people coming in, making sure they understand when they come, they have to self-isolate for 14 days. But as we begin to open up our economy, we're going to have to deal with the issue of mobility of citizens. We're going to have to figure out how to live with COVID. It's not going away. We're a ways away from a vaccine. So that means we can't completely shut down the economic future of the country or provinces. So how do we continue to make sure we practice those public health protocols that are in place? And we start letting the mobility happen. We in Atlantic Canada are talking about, can we do an Atlantic Canada bubble to have people moving within our region where they wouldn't have to self-isolate for those 14 days coming back and forth. But those are things that we will continue to monitor and look forward to. As we see our opening tomorrow, we'll watch the epidemiology for us and then encounter a conversation with our respective sister provinces about how we then start allowing the mobility of our citizens and commerce to go and between our provinces.
So what are some of the ideas? Are there contact tracing? Are there testing when you get to the border? Do you guys have any plan to, for example, try to get a quick test done as soon as possible because we don't have a vaccine? I mean, what are the options on the table? Because if there's not a vaccine for a year, are you really going to tell people no one outside the Maritimes can come to Halifax for 6 months?
No, not at all. That's not what I said. What we said is we would start with that area and broaden our bubble. We as a country are going to have to start figuring out the mobility of its citizens for economic reasons and for social reasons. We as a province early on spread our testing out. We moved away from travel very early, aggressively pursuing contacts. If a particular individual in a workplace comes down with COVID, we test everybody. We will continue to do that testing. There's an ongoing national conversation about contact tracing using an app. A number of provinces have companies that have developed an app. We'll look at that as part of our contact tracing. But at the same time, we're going to rely and work with our citizens, people coming in and out of our province, to use common sense, follow the public health protocols. As we move forward, we had no choice. No Canadian had a choice. We had to shut our economy down. Now we have to open it up with the idea that we're going to live with COVID for a period of time.
Premier, just real quick, because a lot of folks in Quebec and Ontario, which frankly are the lion's share of the cases right now, is everything opening tomorrow? I mean, is it essentially, outside of their travel restrictions, is it essentially back to the way it was in Nova Scotia as of tomorrow?
No, it's not back the way it was, but we opened up all our sectors. We took a different approach. So we worked with our associations, restaurant associations, cosmetology department, and laid out a set of protocols that they communicated to their respective members with a strategy. So, for example, restaurants, it's 50% of your occupancy you're allowed to open up for. If it's not your family bubble sitting at the same table, you need to have 6 feet separation. Patios will be open tomorrow. It's going to be a gorgeous day in Nova Scotia, as it is most days. Looking forward to that. There's hair salons that have dividers between chairs, wearing face masks. Dentists are beginning to open up. Our daycares are taking a bit longer. They won't open up until June 15th. But by and large, the things that were shut down due to public health calls will be allowed to open tomorrow. And in advance of that, there have been businesses opening that were not shut down but chose to close their doors simply because the customers were staying home.
Just before I let you go, I don't want to forget about this, and part of me feels, and I've heard this from others, that because of COVID and because of the George Floyd situation, all of a sudden no one's talking about the biggest gun massacre in Canadian history. It tragically happened in your province. There was an update today. Apparently all the guns the killer got were illegally obtained. There are calls, should there be a national inquiry into what happened? What new developments, and what do you think needs to happen before? I don't want that tragedy in any way, shape, or form to be forgotten.
Nor do we. We believe there should be a joint effort between the federal and our government here, put together a process that we deal with the issue of the protocol that happened that particular day, gun control, how illegal guns get into this province. We need to deal with the issue of domestic violence, gender-based violence. In what role did that play in this? We'll continue to work with the national government, but for us, it's critical that both governments are at the table, because whatever the recommendations that come out of that, we believe should be implemented. We as a government are committed to implementing any recommendations that come out to us, and we need our national partner to do the same thing. We currently have a Desmond inquiry going on in our province right now, where it is a provincial inquiry, and any recommendations towards the federal government will not be forced to be implemented. It'll be left to the discretion of the national government, and we want to make sure, I owe it, quite frankly, we as a country owe it to these 22 families that whatever the recommendations that come from this, that we implement change. That's what I want to make sure that happens, and that no one has a chance to back away from the recommendations, that they will be implemented. These 22 families deserve nothing less from this country and from this province.
Yeah, those 22 families still in our thoughts very much. Premier McNeil, always good to have you on the program, sir. Appreciate it, and good luck with the reopening tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care now.